If you're anything like me, you often feel a little bit of stuck in your life. Suck and stuck. And in today's episode of The Written Compass, I want to talk about how writing can actually be a tool to support you in honoring what is showing up, honoring that personal experience, and getting yourself unstuck through words. I'm so excited you're here. Let's get started. Hello. Welcome to another episode of The Written Compass. Dr. Shayna V here. I'm so excited to talk today because I think this topic is one of the most powerful reasons why I do what I do. Because I often, don't know about you, find myself stuck in life. It might be for a few hours. It might be for several days. And when this episode is being recorded, it has been a couple of weeks of feeling the suck and the stuck. And one of the things that supports me is writing. And one of the things that I think is so powerful is when we use writing to get ourselves unstuck, whether that be unstuck in our writing process, if we have a goal and we're trying to move that forward, or whether that is simply just for ourselves in life in general. And here's the reason why this is so powerful. And I'm actually going to be drawing from and reading a little bit from my upcoming book, Writing is Not That Hard, in a chapter that's called Writing is Personal. Because when we feel this separation between, I feel like life often, society often tells us, we need to compartmentalize work from play and personal from professional. And I just call a little bit of BS on all of that. And I love to shake up the globe, swirl it all together and see what shakes out from that. And I think recognizing just remembering how personal writing is, it is literally your words coming from you out onto a page, whether that's your daybook, your journal, a blog post, a social media post, an email, a chapter, an article. That is you on the outside. And that is super personal. So we have often this idea, and it typically comes from school, that we need to remove the personal from our writing, right? Now, why do we teach people that? The intentions is that we want people to learn to, I think, as we're growing up and educating in the education system, we want people to understand there are other ideas out there than just our own. And that is a lovely concept and is very important. Yes, we don't live in a vacuum. There are lots of people out in the planet and lots of ideas, and it is a great tool to be able to have empathy and compassion and understanding of other people's views, and then use that to help guide your perspective and your view, even if you disagree, right? We can all acknowledge that that is an important life skill. But here's where it starts to get a little tricky, right? In many ways, you can tell me if you've experienced this, leave a comment, tag me over on the Shayna_V on Instagram. In many ways, you weren't allowed to be you. You had to kind of abide by some rules. And tell me if you've heard this, like, don't include your opinion. Don't use I, the personal pronoun I, like the actual letter I, like I think, blah, 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 blah. Just stick to the text or just stick to the research. No personal stories. So if you're raising your hand or nodding along as you listen to this, and that was something you learned in school, it kind of makes sense that now, if you're a person that has to write in your daily goings-ons, your personal life, your professional life, that these are kind of competing voices, because you're sitting here, I want to share my message, I want to share my story with others, but you've got this, okay, your brain goes, well, what do we know about writing? And then it goes back to these stories of don't be personal, don't include your opinion. And it's like, wait a minute, how do we make sense of all of that? And again, like I said, those rules had good intentions, right? By trying to provide some clear to-dos and some clear what not to-dos, school systems feel like, and other people, it might not just be school, feel like they're helping students, right? And in turn, students feel helped. You felt like you had some support around, what do I do when I sit down to write? However, when you are learning and discovering what writing is, because the focus is on that getting it right and not getting it wrong, it it makes sense that you've got this jumbled up mess happening, right? Because here's the thing, those rules, those supposed supportive things are actually kind of backwards in how communication works. Writing is literally an act of bringing your internal thoughts to the outside for someone else to read and make meaning from. And nothing, as I said, can get more personal than that, right? So, my idea here around how do we use writing to help us get unstuck is to honor this personal, to honor that this is you right now, right? And when I start to say, hey, what if you just write about what is showing up? People do a mixture of things. So let me give you an example. I was on a coaching call with a wonderful client, and she is a fellow body mind coach, and she absolutely knows how to honor like what is showing up for her personally. She has no problem with that. And she was kind of, earmuffs for a moment, kind of in the shit, as we might say, in life. And this is why I want to tell her story, because it's a great example of being stuck. She felt like she wasn't getting anything done in regards to her writing and just also in life in general. She was like, I can't focus. I can't find my path. We dug a little bit deeper, and she was just over and over like, I just don't feel like I'm getting anything right. I don't feel like I'm making any progress on, again, anything for the book she was working on, for her business, for her life, et cetera, et cetera. So I kind of asked her some questions, digging a little deeper. I said, okay, what does not getting anything done look like right now? And so she kind of paused and pondered for a little bit. And she quickly named that she actually had, after all, been doing quite a bit. She had been taking care of her fur babies. She'd been supporting her own clients. And you know what? Like, I gave her credit. We kind of acknowledged, like, you're still alive, right? You've showered, you've eaten, you've gotten dressed. Sometimes we need to celebrate those tiny, tiny things. So there's really something to be said for all of this. And so when we kind of dug deeper, what she really meant was I was not writing words consistently to help me complete my book, though she didn't actually say it that way, right? And so I really, in order to get unstuck, I really want to talk about how we've got to bring the personal into our stuckness. And I think writing is a tool to support us in that. And so we actually, in this moment, in this coaching moment, is I said, what if you just wrote about what was showing up literally right now? Kind of call this reflective writing or meta writing. And I said, I bet you can write some amazing stuff today. And we agreed to do a 30-minute writing sprint together. And the funny thing is her book was about being vulnerably authentic. And she was totally in a very vulnerable, authentic moment. And she was feeling anxious. She was, not feeling herself, all of the things. And when we took that moment to honor and just write about what was showing up, guess what? She had a shift. She was able to use writing to actually give her clarity, actually see where she needed to go next in her book. She felt better. So she was able to have a little more pep in her step in her life. It allowed her to move the needle just a little bit and get unstuck just in a slight 1-degree shift. And the floodgates kind of went after that, right? It was kind of a snowball effect. So how do we use writing? How do we do this? How do we use writing to support us, right? And help us get unstuck? And it's easy. It's really easy to think that you can't write anything of quality if you're not feeling it. I hear this a lot. I just have a hard time getting in my flow. I'm not really feeling the words. They're not coming easily today. And I'm here to tell you that that is a powerful opportunity awaiting you. It's in these moments where you get to shift from you being the one supporting your book to actually letting the words support you. And because of this, your book gets written as well, right? And I get it. You may be sitting here and be like, wait a minute, Shana, if I'm a mess and can barely gather my thoughts, like can barely function in society, won't my writing be a mess as well? And if I am truthful, and I totally will be, yeah, and that's okay. The thing is sometimes just getting any words down, no matter what the words are, no matter where the words are going or not going, whether they're going to see the light of day in your book or wherever you're putting your words or not, it doesn't matter. Some of your best writing will come when you're not trying so hard to work on your book and just using writing as a tool to get unstuck, to honor what is showing up, right? So here are some ways, some simple ways to let the personal support you and let the writing about the personal support you in getting unstuck. So, one is to do some writing sprints. This does not matter how long it is, but a writing sprint is literally when you set a timer, give yourself a designated amount of time, put your fingers to keys, put your pen to paper the entire time, and let whatever shows up, shows up. I encourage you to scribble. I encourage you to doodle. I encourage you to write. I don't know what to write 557 times over and over again. The goal is just to move your hand across the keys or across the page for whatever your designated time is. I recommend being at least 5 minutes, but no more than about 30 to 45 minutes. But honestly, it doesn't really matter, right? They're meant to be short bursts of writing, not long swaths of time. And if your timer goes off and you feel like you've got more to say, you're kind of in a zone, then you can keep going, right? And if you get to that timer and you're like, oh, thank God, and you want to chuck the pen across the room or slam the laptop shut, that's great too, right? And in fact, I shared earlier that I'm reading some of this from my upcoming book, Writing is Not That Hard. This is from a chapter about writing is personal. And just in doing the writing sprint of some of the things I just shared, I was about a 30-minute sprint and I had written about 837 words. So a small chunk of time can produce a lot of content and help you get unstuck, whatever that might need to be for you. The other thing is to personify the words. So do a writing sprint, and then you can also use these prompts that I'm going to share with you to kind of personify the words. Often we think we need to know the words before they emerge on the page. And instead, I want to flip it a little bit and try asking yourself these things and letting your words guide your writing. What needs to be written today? What are my words asking of me today? What do the words need to say? What ideas are asking to come forward? And you can take any variation of that. You can take it and let it inspire you to go in a different direction. And I'm asking kind of a similar question, just a little bit variety there. But in asking it in these slightly different ways, it might produce some really cool results. So take a moment, close your eyes, take some deep breaths, ask these questions, let it be a part of your sprint, or just respond to a question or two and see what wants to show up. And then finally, I'm going to share a tactic that I've shared before, but I'm going to make it in connection to this using writing to get unstuck, is get a shitty first draft down. Anne Lamott, who I love, she's my keep it real writer woman, and I always draw inspiration from her. She writes about the concept of a shitty first draft. And this is part of an excerpt from her book, Bird by Bird, Some Instructions on Writing and Life. And she says it like this: for me, and most of the other writers I know, writing is not rapturous. In fact, the only way I can get anything written at all is to write really, really shitty first drafts. She goes on to explain that this is like the child's draft, where you let it all pour out and then let it romp all over the floor, knowing that no one is going to see it and that you can shape it later. So this is a little bit of a permission wand waving to help you use writing to get unstuck, to write the most terrible thing, write the worst stuff possible, letting whatever words want to show up, worrying about nothing but getting words down and using them as a tool to just move you in some way. Honor yourself, honor the personal that is showing up, and just write and write like you. That's most important as well. So let me know what kind of inspiration, what kind of hits you're getting as you think about using writing, honoring the personal, and using it as a tool to get yourself unstuck. And I want to make sure you know that we have opened up our calendar. If you got inspired by this and you're wanting some more support, some more ideas, some more tips, we've opened up our calendar to take calls from our amazing listeners and support you in whatever your next writing steps may be, whether that's using writing as a tool for healing, whether that's joining a writing community of some sort, whether that's finally writing and publishing your book. We want to hear from you and support you in whatever those next steps are. So head to shanahartman.com/schedule to schedule a call that is convenient for you. These are super fun calls. People get so many fun things from them. And most importantly, we support you in whatever your next steps are. So head to shanahartman.com/schedule to get on our calendar today. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of The Written Compass. If you are enjoying this content, do me a favor and go and review the podcast. This allows me to share and get these messages out to the people who really need them, who we want to read their books in the future. You can also go and share your thoughts and tag me at Shana Hartman _ on Instagram. Again, this is just a way for us to get connected and share the writing love. And if you know that you are ready to write your book, that message that's been burning inside of you for a long time, then I want to talk to you. My team and I want to talk to you. Head on over to shanahartman.com and click Work with Us. From there, you'll see an application to explore and see if writing your book is your next best step.